Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to our pre-season live web chat brought to you in association with Scrivens. A very warm welcome, and on behalf of Warwickshire County Cricket Club, hope you're all safe and well, and looking forward, hopefully, to getting along to Edgbaston to see some cricket sometime soon. I know how much the players and coaches are really loving the prospect of playing some cricket in front of you again at some point, hopefully fairly soon. Of course, it all starts on Thursday behind closed doors. Unfortunately, Edgbaston and Warwickshire start their championship season against Derbyshire. And joining us tonight on the live web chat are the two chaps that will be opening the batting for the Bears in that game, Captain Will Rhodes and England's Dom Sibley. Welcome both. Thank you for joining us, fellas. First of all, before we go to the questions, we've got some great questions, as always, from members. So thanks ever so much to all who sent in questions. But first of all, just to say hello to the fellas. Will, it's been a strange year, hasn't it? And a difficult year for everybody, but at long last, you are almost on the eve of your first full season as Bears skipper. I bet you can't wait to get cracking.
Yeah, it feels like a long time coming, to be honest, Brian. It's a bit of a strange year last year. 2 months of the season. It's almost been sort of 18 months of pre-season for a 2-month season. Since I took over from Jeetan as captain. So actually, cricket-wise, we've not played a great deal, but there's been a lot of chats, a lot of theories and stuff like that in the training rooms and in the indoor school. So looking forward to putting that into practice.
And pre-season has gone well. Lots of fellas taking wickets and scoring runs and putting their hands up for selection.
Yeah, it's gone really well, thank you. 3 games have been very productive. I think that's the main thing about pre-season. The runs and wickets obviously are great to see, but guys spending time out in the middle and just getting overs in the legs have been priceless. Really, we've been very fortunate with the weather. It's been dry for 7 days. It's not been particularly warm for all of them, but it's been dry. So I think we're ready to go now on Thursday. I think I've said this before. I think we've been ready from about January. Lads have been pretty eager to get outside. I think a few guys would have liked to have gone away this winter after a short year, but that wasn't today. And we're not a pre-season tour as well. So I think guys are really excited to get going for Thursday now and seeing what this year has for us.
Well, we're all looking forward to seeing that. One chap who has been away, of course, quite a lot is Dom Sibley. Dom, welcome this evening. 18 test matches on belt now, very much part of the England setup, but pleased to be back with the Bears for the first few weeks of the season and runs under your belt at Leeds at the weekend.
Yeah, no, great to be back with the lads. I'm really excited to get going. Mixed feelings, to be honest. I've just been on the golf course and it's been snowing, so I can't say I fancy it snowing too much on Thursday, but hopefully the weather gets a little bit better. And really excited to be back with the Warwickshire boys. Obviously didn't play last year in 4-day cricket, so I'm really looking forward to getting back out there with Rhodesy and the lads, and hopefully we can get a win to start off with.
We'll all endorse that. Thank you both for joining us. Let's get on with the questions then. Plenty of them to come. We'll start off with a question from John Westwood. Thank you for your question, John. And it's to Will. And he says, after the warm-up games, it appears it will be very difficult to pick a side for the first championship match, which I assume is a good thing for the club. Do you, as captain, have the final say on who plays?
It's a good question. I think obviously me and Robbo have spoken at length about a lot of players. As you've mentioned there, guys have put their name in the hats, and at this stage of the season, you usually have a couple of injuries, and it's probably quite easy to pick a squad of 12. And it's the sort of team sort of picks itself, but this year it's actually been very tough. It's great to have Sibs back in with us, so there's obviously another selection issue for one of the other guys who's been with us all winter. So it's great to have those guys back. In regards to final say, I think it depends on the day, really. We both have our thoughts, and generally they're pretty similar, or at least that's how it probably ends up being anyway. You're always picking between 2 players. It's like that for any game in any sport. I think it's usually down to 2 players. So whether it's the final say, I don't know. We'll see how we go on Thursday. But I think we're getting to the sort of point now where we've come up with the final 11. Obviously, we'll have a look at the pitch tomorrow at training, but our final 11 seems to be pretty similar at the minute. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, I think.
And John Westwood also asks, will Peter Milan be available for the first championship game? Of course, the club has announced today that Peter's arrival will be delayed due to visa issues, which is a shame. Hopefully he'll be here soon, but and it is a shame that he's not here at the start, but you've still got plenty of batters to pick from.
Yeah, look, it's not ideal. That we sort of, obviously got Peter and had some good discussions with him in the last few weeks. For him coming over, obviously he's been in great form for his team back in South Africa. I think obviously got that big 100, didn't he? In his last game or his second to last game, which was great. He'd come over with a bit of form, but form is one of those things that not to touch any wood, but we've got through our team at the minute. It's great to have guys at some point in the last 3 games have all stuck the hand up and got runs. Whether that's Lammy, Rob Yates, Sam Hain, obviously Dom. With his 100 spending a lot of time at the crease against Leeds Bradford this week has been fantastic. Hosey has got runs and Burge as well. So the top 7 have all got runs at some point during the year. And like you said, that's, a great credit to them and how hard they've worked over the last few months, working at the games, knowing where they've, or picking up on areas where they might need to tweak and get a little bit better at, and those guys have done that and put it into practice. So, like you said, all put their names in the hat for the first game.
And a question for John as well, for Dom. Dom, do you know how many games you'll be allowed to play for the Bears at the start of the season? And as a batsman, do you prefer to be playing games rather than sitting out and resting for the test matches?
I think for me, it's just I want to play as many as possible. I think with the way that the cricket's gone since COVID, with bubbles and stuff like that, for me, it's been quite difficult to find that rhythm. I feel like I've gone from maybe a middle practice or a net straight into a test match since COVID's happened, and I found that extremely difficult. So I like to bat for, get time in the middle, and I'm hoping, I don't know what the plan is. I know that obviously after a tough tour this winter, I need to score as many runs as possible, and I just want to try and contribute to as many wins as possible for Warwickshire. And I don't really know too much. I've obviously had conversations in India towards the end, but I think for most of these championship games, I'm hopefully going to be available, and hopefully, like I said, have a few nice partnerships with Rhodes at the top, and we can contribute to a few wins.
Talking of that partnership between you two up top, Barry Bridges asks, how much of an advantage do you think it is to be a left-right combination at the top of the order?
I think it's probably going to play to our advantage. I think we're two pretty different players as well. I think that's a pretty good thing. You don't want to be too similar at the top of the order. Obviously, Dom has his strengths and I have mine, and I think we've stuck to them over the last 3 years, and I think that's what has made Dom so successful. He stuck to his guns and worked hard at them, and he's now flourishing for England. I think we bounce off each other pretty well. We've had times where we've gone through with lean patches with Warwickshire, and ever since we signed for the club a few years ago. But we've seemed to come through that, and I think 2019 was obviously our big year for runs at the top of the order, and I think having that little bit of added pressure of, I guess, a relegation battle probably helped us in a way, knowing that we had to score runs, and knowing that our middle order wasn't scoring the runs that perhaps they'd have liked to. It actually left us with a little bit of pressure, and I think certainly for myself, I can speak for myself. It's added to my game, and obviously scoring the runs that we did together was a blessing in disguise, I guess.
Thank you, Will. David Phillips, thank you for your questions, David. One for each of you. First of all, Dom, he says, was playing on turning pitches in Asia over the winter more challenging than expected? And what are your reflections on the winter?
I knew it was going to be tough work. I mean, I thought I'd prepared as well as I could. I felt like I worked really hard in the winter, before Christmas. And I sort of knew that it was going to be tough, and I prepared for it to spin a lot, but it's always different when you get out there and you're playing under pressure. And it was, especially after that first test match in India, where The pitch was quite flat on the first sort of 3 days, and then turned. They were always going to play on real Bunsons after that, as they needed to win those 3 games. So yeah, look, it was a good experience in terms of a bit of an eye-opener in seeing what it's like to play in some of the toughest conditions I've played in. But yeah, I suppose it's one of those ones. Hopefully, if you get another opportunity to go back in the future, then it's you want to try and be better prepared, and hopefully that experience will stand me in better stead for next time. But yeah, certainly tough when I was out there, but looking back on it, reflecting a good experience, and it's all challenge yourself against the best, the best spin bowlers in the world on probably some of the toughest wickets I'll ever play on was something that I can only learn from.
Talking of spin bowling, actually, Dom, we've got a question from Eli Z. Farn. Thank you for your question, Eli. He says, Dom, well done on establishing yourself in the Test team. Really well deserved. Now that Jeetan Patel has been appointed as England's spin bowling coach, will you be working extensively with him to make yourself a potent spin option for the national team?
Brian, don't get me started, mate. Honestly, with Jeets, I think he ruined my leg spinning career. All right, I've had this laugh with him on tour a few times. I always say, whether it's at the end of the game, I said it's your fault, mate. You always bowl into the short boundary, and I always get whacked. But no, it's all fun and games. And unfortunately, my leg spinning career has probably taken a little bit of a downturn. But we've got Matt Lamb, who's now bowling leg spin. I'm sort of living my leg spinning career through him in the Warwickshire dressing room at the minute. So I'm thoroughly enjoying watching him go about his work. And yeah, I can't say I've been bowling too much, and I probably won't be with Jeets in the future. But yeah, no, it's all fun and games.
I think there might be a wrinkle too in this plot left yet, Dom. But sorry, David, I forgot your question for Will. Apologies. David Phillips asked Will, as captain, what are your aspirations for the season ahead, and what brand of cricket do you want to promote with the Bears?
Aspirations are to win as many games of cricket as we can. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but I think Warwickshire over the last few years, especially in red ball cricket, hasn't got to the strides and sort of the places where we want to get to. And I think that's where we ultimately want to get back to in the coming years. And without that, you've got to win games of cricket. I think we're all coming to an age, or a lot of us in this squad are coming to an age now where this transition period / youngsters coming through is probably gone now, and a lot of us have played a good amount of first class cricket. I think that shows in obviously the games we've already played and the stats that we've got. So actually now I think is our time to really grow, and this season will obviously will tell us. But I think obviously I said to you, Brian, last week that getting into that top 2 in the group is a massive aim for us. You want to be challenging for trophies at the end of the year, whether that's white ball cricket or red ball cricket. And getting into that top 2 in the county championship is pretty imperative actually. We've got a very, very tough group, and obviously Derby pose a massive opposition for us on Thursday. But yeah, you want to win trophies for the club. I'll get back to sort of finals days, being in the hunt for trophies. But like I said before, to do that, you've got to start winning games, and that's where we've ultimately got to start with.
Just related to that, actually, a question from Hannah John. Thank you, Hannah, for your question. And she says, given last year's results, do we have a realistic chance of winning the championship this year?
It's a good question. I think, obviously last year was a bit of a learning for everyone. Sometimes, when you only play 5 games, you sort of know if you start well or you start poorly. Last year, you were always out the competition. And by then you want to find your way and start learning about the team. Filling Jeets' hole was obviously a massive struggle for us. Obviously he's an absolute world-class spinner. And to sort of replace him in the overs that he bowls, and sort of the team dynamic was obviously a bit of a test last year. And obviously, like I said, we've got to start winning games for Warwickshire, and signing Briggsy. Obviously, he's looking to reinvent his wheel, I guess, and got aspirations to play for England. So he's ready to go now. So obviously, having him as a frontline spinner, and having Sibs back, having Ollie Stone coming back from India, a better bowler and working with Pop out there in certain conditions. Liam Norwell's back bowling really, really well. Ollie Hammond had a great year. So actually these guys are starting to really, look really good, and not just have names on paper now. It's actually, bowling the balls, playing well, taking wickets and winning games for Warwickshire.
You mentioned Ollie Stone there, which leads us to a question from Rodney Meadows. Thanks, Rodney, for your question. And he says Graham Welsh was quoted last week as saying that he thought during the winter Ollie Stone had developed into the real deal as an England player. Rodney says, Dom, did you face Ollie much in the nets on tour? And do you think he could be a pretty decent weapon in the Ashes next winter?
Yeah, I've faced a lot of Ollie in the nets. Faced him actually since I've been back here at Edgbaston, which has been good. It's always good to net against the best guys and challenge yourself and stuff. And yeah, no, 100%. I think with Ollie, me and Rhodesy did under-19 cricket with him, and we obviously knew from a young age. Even then, I remember him, taking stacks of wickets at that age, and I always looked out for his name across when I was a youngster. And I've always sort of thought that he's got the potential to be, a top bowler, and he's turned into that. Obviously, he's had his struggles with injury, and he looks like, touch wood, he's coming through that, and he's performing. And he's, he only played one test in the winter, but I know that he made a massive impression out there, and the way that he trained and the way that he's been bowling. So I've got no doubt that if he went to Australia and was involved in the Ashes, that he'd do well on those quick bouncy wickets. I'm sure they'd suit him well, and the pace that we all know he can bowl. He can can not only get wickets, but he can also intimidate a few batsmen as well.
Thanks, Dom. A question still on international cricket, actually, from Clive Sharp to you both. Clive says, Dom and Will, no bear has ever scored a test century at Edgbaston for England. That's a record surely you'd love to have, and that is to you both, because although, Dom, you've already made it into the test team, Will, I would imagine it's an ambition of yours.
I think Dom's probably got a lot better chance than I have at this minute. I think, he'd have probably, given himself the best opportunity last year if it wasn't in, COVID bubbles and we were playing and those guys were playing all around the country. But yeah, I think, you want to, I think for me, just, scoring championship hundreds is brilliant at Edgbaston. I love batting there, and I'm sure Dom does too. But I think Dom is certainly a lot closer than I am to scoring an international 100 at Edgbaston.
What were Belly and Trotty doing for all those years? Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's right. Amos and MJK Smith and Ashley Giles. Why weren't they scoring centuries?
Yeah, what was Gilo doing?
But you've got New Zealand, of course, coming up in June there, Dom. It would be lovely to put your name on that record.
Yeah, look, I'm really in terms of playing Test cricket. I'm not looking too far ahead. I know, obviously, after a tough winter, obviously I wasn't the only one that struggled, but I'm, just wanted to do well for Warwickshire, score lots of runs for Warwickshire, and try and contribute and let that take care of itself. And I know a couple of people have said to me about tests in the summer, and I by no means sort of, expecting to play. I want to try and, really sort of, similar to that 2019, score as many runs and make sure that I'm, maybe on that team sheet. And hopefully if I do get a chance to play a test match at Warwickshire, that would be incredible. And yeah, obviously to score 100 and to score a test 100 is amazing. And, if it was to do it as Edgbaston and break a record, that would be the icing on the cake. But not looking too far ahead, and just trying to take every day as it comes, and score a few runs for Warwickshire on Thursday, hopefully.
That's a question from Carl Jordan. Now, Carl, thank you for your questions as always, and a question to you both again. This who do you go to see for advice when there's an area of your batting that you're not happy with? For instance, Ian Bell always went to see Neil Aberley when he had an issue. Is there a go-to person for you both?
Go on, Rhoda. Go on, you go.
Well, I think, there's, you always work with the batting coaches at Warwickshire. I think Frosty and Ian Westwood have obviously seen me bat a lot now. But actually, my old man, with all the sort of video footage, live streams, and all this sort of jazz that we get now, the access that you can get to games. I think my old man probably knows my batting as well as anyone. So it's actually sort of him. and with him just being sort of a club cricketer, you know, he simplifies everything down for me. You know, sometimes you can get very technical and look for things that aren't actually there, but you know, he just brings all the basics back to me whenever I'm struggling. Sort of brings you back down to earth when you're playing well as well. So you know, he's certainly one that I go to for advice. You know, about all my cricket really, and he's been a good sounding board for me. So yeah, I'll always go back to him. But then, you know, the guys at Edgbaston, you know, Graham Welsh has been, you know, fantastic for me this winter. You know, training in our small bubbles that we were in the winter. You know, Pop was, you know, the coach of my bubble, and yeah, he was amazing this winter. Simplified everything for me and sort of changed the way I've sort of gone about the game. So, you know, those three coaches at Edgbaston, you know, see you day in, day out. But if there was one person who was external from the club and doesn't see me very often but sees the streams, it'll probably be my old man.
And Dom?
Yeah, very similar, to be honest. I think obviously I've worked with Frosty quite a lot at Warwickshire. He's been really good with me and helped me technically with stuff. I've you know, spent a lot of time obviously playing with Trotty and now being coached by him a little bit and seeing him outside of Warwickshire. He's helped me a fair bit, and he was someone that you know, probably saw something in my technique in that first year when I was really struggling at Warwickshire to maybe change. And then, yeah, same as Rhodesy, I think always go back to the old man for a little bit of advice. He's always pretty keen to give me a little bit as well sometimes. But no, it's you know, it's always, you know, people that you try and, especially as you know, more people get involved with your cricket. You want to try and keep your people that you listen to closely as small as possible, and people that you trust, so that you know it's coming from a good place and that they want the best for you. So, but no, it's you know, it's just a couple of people. I think people think there'd be more than that, but no, yeah, I like working with Frosty, Trotty, and obviously the old man. Obviously not the old man in the nets, but just for a few chats here and there.
David Whittingham's been in touch on the group chat. Of course, this is a live event, everyone. So if a question occurs to you that you'd like putting to the lads, then do get in touch on the group chat. David says, have you both defrosted from Wheatwood when playing Leeds Bradford Uni? I was there on Sunday when it wasn't too bad. Great to see some live cricket at last. You both got good runs up there, though. Dom, particularly for you, I'm guessing, after Sri Lanka and India, it was a bit parky in Leeds.
Sunday night. Was it Sunday night? Yeah, Sunday night. Oh my goodness. That was the coldest thing I've ever been on a cricket pitch. I don't think I've warmed up just yet, but it was good to obviously play, and I know it was cold, but it was good to have a bit of time in the middle before, obviously, I didn't want to go into Thursday, you know, having just, you know, first hit since Asia. So no, it was good to be out there, but yeah, it was pretty cold.
Just on a serious note, Will, or a more serious note, I mean, if it's forecast for the back end of the week is pretty chilly, isn't it? And flurries of snow, it can't be particularly easy fielding for long periods in that.
No, it's not, especially as captain when you know you've got to stay out there for, you know, every single ball pretty much. You know, Dom can sneak off every now and again if he wants to. if he needs the loo, he can sneak off, but I've got to stay out there. It was just, you know, I think you've got to make fielding enjoyable, and it was so unenjoyable at Wheatwood. You know, I think it was just so cold. So it was more the wind that got everyone. Guys were layering up. Yeah, it was amazing how it can be so cold in April, if I'm honest. I think we'd have been warmer in January if we went out and did some outdoor fielding practice on the ground, you know, in January. But I think, yeah, it gave Dom a bit of a realisation that, you know, Ahmedabad was probably a nicer temp out there than it was at Wheatwood.
Question from Jess Ellicott. Thank you, Jess. After an injury layoff or a long off-season, what advice would you give to get back into a batting rhythm and feeling comfortable at the crease? Thank you. That's an interesting question, of course, because it's what batsmen have to deal with at the start of the season.
I think it's, you know, one of those things. It's a bit more personal preference. It depends on sometimes your age and experience. You know, sometimes when you're a bit older, you know what you want a little bit. But for me personally, I would, you know, going into a season and going into competitive fixtures, I'd want to be, you know, hitting as many balls as possible, Like I touched on earlier, I'd want to be facing all the bowlers in nets as much as possible, just so you get used to seeing, that action and the ball coming out the hand rather than sort of, on the bowling machine or from the dog stick or whatever. So it's just a case of trying to get as much volume in as possible, but so you feel comfortable, because that's what, obviously it's going to be that first competitive game back is always a little bit of you get those nerves, you start, your heart rate goes up, but you just want to be as best prepared, and that you sort of left no stone unturned going into that. So that would be my advice. I don't know whether Rhodes you'd have any different.
No, not for me. I think pretty similar to Dom, really. When you come back, you always want to start hitting balls. It's actually quite amazing. I think the first time you always hit balls after a long while, you probably hit them as well as any time, and then the second and third times usually borderline terrible for me. So actually, just getting that sort of rustiness out of the way. The first few nets is always pretty horrible. Really, the ball feels it's coming 1,000 miles an hour, especially in November anyway. But like Dom said, you hit as many balls as you can, and you suddenly start. It doesn't take too long to get into it, and you don't forget how to bat overnight. So that's the main thing I would do, is just wait till you want to get out there and hit as many balls as you can, really.
Question from Neil Marsh. Neil asks, what has been the impact of the introduction of the new coach at Warwickshire County Cricket Club? Of course, Mark Robinson has come in with a good track record. What's his impact been?
He's been fantastic, to be honest. He's given a few players a bit of a new lease of life, really. The guys all want to come out and impress, which is fantastic. The standard of training has gone through the roof, really, because Rob only knows a few guys in the dressing, or he previously knew a few guys in the dressing room. So everyone he's trying to impress, which has been outstanding, and he wants to win games of cricket for Warwickshire. Like you've said there, his track record is outstanding. He's won championships, he's won World Cups as well. So he knows how to win games of cricket, and he knows how to win big championships as well. And that's only going to be beneficial for us in the direction that we want to take. This squad. We all want to be successful. A few of us have had obviously Dom's had a taste of winning international series, and a few of us have been lucky enough to win championships in England. So we want to get back to that, albeit it's been with different clubs, but we want to bring that to Warwickshire and win with Warwickshire. So I think he's just brought a very much a winning mentality and a calmness about a group that we know that we can win games of cricket. So hopefully we put that into good practice on Thursday and beyond. But he's just backed guys. He's listened to guys and seen how they want to go about it. But ultimately, he knows that it's the player's duty to win games. It doesn't all just fall on the coach. So he's put that pressure on us to go out there and perform.
Dom, you've been away most of the winter, of course, but you've been back the last few weeks. Have you had much to do with Robbo over the years? And of course, Paul Farbrace has similarly got a track record of success, hasn't he, with the England team? So there are a couple of winners at the helm at the Bears.
Yeah, 100%. It's exciting. I'd actually never met Robbo until when I came back from India. So I had a good conversation with him on the phone as I got back about sort of just touching base, really. And straight away, I enjoyed the way, he asked me about myself, and not so much. I thought it was going to be a cricket conversation, and it was more, getting to know me as a person, asking about my family, and I really like that side of coaching sometimes, and getting to know the person. And no, it's been good so far, and yeah, it's very clear that he's got that winning mentality, and he wants to make us win. And I think the thing, like Will said there, it's one of those ones like I've obviously played a bit of international cricket, but I listened to the way someone like Dan Lawrence in the England environment spoken about Essex's winning championships and the sort of the feeling that he's had with that, and it sort of makes me a little bit jealous and envious. So that's definitely something that I want to try and do. With Warwickshire, winning trophies is, when you finish your career, you want to look back and say, "Oh, I won that," and that's definitely something I want to do, is to win some big trophies. I know we won Division 2, but that's Warwickshire's one of the biggest clubs in the country. So we want to be winning Division 1 and winning the T20, and yeah, it's just that's something that I want to do with the club for sure.
Charles Ross, thank you for your questions, Charles. Good evening to you, as always. It's a very interesting point that Charles makes for both your comments, please, fellas. He said, Charles says, "Hi guys, I've always thought that cricket is one of the toughest sports mentally, not least opening the batting in the professional game. Over the last 12 months, we've all faced many challenges, mental challenges we could never have anticipated or prepared for. Have you used any cricketing disciplines in your everyday life during this period? And secondly, have you learned anything from everyday life which you can take into cricket?"
It's a good one, actually. I think, look, it's been a tough time for everyone, hasn't it, over this last year? The one thing I'll take out of this massively is, which was actually persuaded by my partner. She actually was a bit nosy on one of our conversations. We had Dean Smith on Zoom, in the last lockdown, and she was overhearing it. And he said the best thing he ever did in his managerial career was get a dog. And she sort of looked at me as if to say, "We're getting one," and ended up 5 months later we got a dog. Now you come home to your dog, and whether you've kicked one on 0 or you've made 100, the dog still shows you the same love every time you walk through the door. And I think that for me, there is more to life than cricket. Yes, we are paid and paid well to do our job, but there are certainly better things or sort of bigger things in life than cricket. And obviously, getting the dog certainly made me a little bit more level-headed about life and not to worry and not to worry about myself too much. There are other people out there who, or other creatures, that will certainly love you all the same.
Dom, have you got a dog?
I bought my parents a puppy at Christmas. My dad didn't speak to me for a week, so that was a bit of a different experience. But I think Rhodes, you're spot on. I think sometimes as cricketers, I think almost, I know for myself, I lived with Rhodesy as well, and I can probably speak for him as well, is that sometimes we probably care too much and we think about it too much, and especially batting is, it can be over like in a flash. Your innings can be over, and I think there's a lot of time thinking about it, and maybe catastrophizing things when it's not as bad as you think. And I think what it has done is teach you there's more going on than cricket, and you get yourself out of your own head sometimes, and think about other people. And it's definitely a great question, and it's definitely made me think a little bit differently in terms of cricket and batting. But I'm sure once the season gets up and running, some of those thoughts will be coming back, but hopefully not as bad as before.
That's a really interesting point, of course, because as for a batsman, I mean, cricket is a very mental game anyway, isn't it? But for batsmen particularly, it can be all over in a flash, can't it? And then you can do nothing for a long period of time. That's pretty much I can't think of another sport where that occurs. And I just wonder if, touching on Charles' question, because it's been a tough time for us all, hasn't it, in life, maybe cricketers and batsmen have that sort of stoic attitude built in. You've got to deal with this sort of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Like you say there, hopefully, touch wood, it didn't happen on Thursday, but you can end up kicking one, missing one, or edging one in the first over, and by 11:05 a.m. your day's done, sort of thing. You've trained 6 months of the year, a lot of 6 a.m. wake ups, for 5 minutes of batting. That's the realization of it. Dom, said to me a couple of years ago, I think when we were living together, you got to look at, cricket, and actually you probably have more bad days than good days. And actually that stuck with me. So now it's all about cherishing the good days and making them into great days. So whether that's, turning a 50 into 100, 100 into 200, or just watching one of your teammates, do really well, it's those days that matter. And, those days are the ones that you get up and about, and seeing guys get over the line for Warwickshire, whether it's, Jake Lintott coming into the team last year and bowling really well. Those are the days which can be happy for people. And just something like a well done, congratulations text goes a long way. And I think that's, played a massive part of the last year with this lockdown as well.
Thanks, fellas. A question from Matt Grubb. This does pertain to one of your best days, Will, with the ball, actually. He says, Will, your bowling has come on remarkably in the last 2 seasons. Did you make any changes to your action or approach that brought on the success at Essex away and ever since? Or has it just a case of being unlucky the season before? Have you changed anything?
I wouldn't say I've changed a great deal. I've obviously worked. I think I've just worked a lot harder at it. 2019 was a very interesting year for us. I can remember going down, on the bus to Kent, and I think me and Lammy were the only fit seamers who were contracted, and going into a game that's probably not ideal. Obviously, I'm still bowling and Lammy's bowling spin, so that shows the sort of the lack of options that we had. But I think Essex was just one of those, lucky occasions, one that I seemed to land the ball in the right position, a little bit of fortune here and there, and got a night at the Realm out twice in a game, which is always nice. And I let people know about that every time I my bowling comes up. So I wouldn't say I changed a great deal. I just worked very hard with Pop to make myself into a genuine option with the ball. And now I'm captain, I can obviously bring myself on if conditions start to favour my little swingers.
And that's a very convenient passage into the question from Carl Jordan, which is, Will, how difficult as a captain is it to know when to put yourself on to bowl?
Yeah, it's difficult. It is difficult. It took me a while last year to sort of back myself to do it. Sometimes it was pretty forced. It was pretty much forced upon me by Pop and Trouts, obviously last year, and then almost someone like Timmy Bresnan who would say, "Mate, you have to bowl now." I think that purely because I had to bowl his overs because he bowled so much for us. But look, it sort of comes with it. You don't want to. You're always sort of seeing what other guys think. You're always thinking that I know when Jeets was captain, I was always thinking as a captain and thinking who I would bowl in those situations. And sometimes it would be different to what, Jeets was obviously thinking and doing. Whether that's right or wrong, that's just how, people think about the game. So you always have that in the back of your mind, and bowling yourself, is it the right thing or not? So I think sometimes you just got to be confident with it, especially as a captain. So, hopefully if I do come on and get some early wickets, you sort of earn the respect of the guys and they obviously take you as a serious option. Obviously I bowled Dom in the nets last week, and he said you've got to bowl more. So if a test batter's saying that, then I might have to strap the bowling boots on a few more times than anticipated, I think.
Sounds like you could be opening the bowling on Thursday.
And I won't be doing that. That's a little insider. If we do win the toss and bowl, I ain't opening the bowling.
Of course, you do mention Jeets there. Of course, one of the challenges for the Bears, as Farby touched on, is life without Jeets. I mean, he has been so central to the bowling plan for so long, hasn't he? Danny Briggs has come in, of course, but there's a lot of overs to find there, isn't there, that Jeets bowled? There
is, and obviously the high quality overs as well. That goes without saying. It's not just the volume; it was the success and the quality that he bowled at. You're standing at slip in 2019. You don't realise how good he was until you stood sort of at slip and you saw him, bowl out Surrey, at home when he got 12 in the game. Me and Sibs obviously stood at first and second slip for a lot of that game to the left-handers, and it was on a pitch like that and sort of a situation where a game was on the line and you don't realise how good this bloke actually was. You face him sort of twice a year and he's an absolute jet and a gun, but actually, when you spend more time with him, you see him training, you face him in the nets, but then you see him bowling a game and you think, this guy is unbelievable. So it's not just the amount of overs, it's the quality. And like I said before, Briggs, he obviously is coming in, wants to, got aspirations again to play for England. I know that's in the white ball stuff, but, to get his red ball career back and going. And he's been a quality performer for the past decade now. So, obviously he's been watching a lot of footage at Jeets, especially bowling at Edgbaston. So, like I said, it's a big role to fill. It might take Briggsy a while just to get used to that pressure, but I'm sure he'll be absolutely fine.
Question again for Dom from Matt Grubb. Matt, thanks for your questions. Dom, who has been the toughest bowler you've faced in Test cricket so far?
I think on the seam front, it'd probably be Rabada. I think he was someone that was always felt like he had a wicket ball in him. Tough to sort of line up. And obviously bowls at pretty quick pace. So he was pretty tough. And then this winter on the spin front, I think probably facing the two guys that bowled in tandem for most of that series, Ashwin and Axar Patel. They were on those wickets. It obviously made it a lot harder than if the wickets were a little bit better. But their accuracy and their skill is incredible. And I think Ashwin's obviously he's the second quickest ever to 400 Test wickets, and Axar Patel is averaging about 5 in his Test career so far. So that was pretty tough with them coming from either end. There weren't many bad balls flying around, but I'd probably say those Rabada and those two spinners on the bowling front.
A question from Susan Holden. Thank you, Susan. And the question for both of you: where do you see Warwickshire finishing in all competitions this season, and which competition do you feel the team has most chance of winning?
Good question. Okay. I don't think you can say anything, about where we're gonna finish. Every county in the country thinks they're going to win the championship the night before the season, don't they? That's pretty easy to say, but like I said a couple of weeks ago, you don't know until you've probably played 4 or 5 games and you can weigh up the season and see where you're going to finish. Obviously we've seen firsthand at how well we've done in training and in pre-season, but the 17 other counties obviously believe they've been unbelievable in pre-season as well. I think it was good to have run-outs against Durham and Notts and sort of see where they're at as well. They're obviously in our group, so we'll play almost half our games against those two counties. So it was nice to play some good cricket against those two over 4 days. Obviously the white ball, is going to be interesting. Briggs is a great signing for us in T20 cricket. We're losing for the 50 over stuff, but he's a great sign. Obviously Carlos is a winner. As well. So we brought in, 2 very, very high class players, kept Jay Lintott from last year. So actually we're looking pretty good on that front as well. But the sort of change of groups again from last year, is going to be a different challenge for us. And obviously guys who were in bubbles, weren't they, for England. So teams will have those guys back and we'll just have to see where we go. But in answer to saying which one we're sort of most, going to win, it's hard to say really. I don't want to say the championship and we end up finishing bottom and winning the T20 because that'd look a bit silly at the end of the year. So I know this is being recorded, so I'll just say we'll hopefully win them all.
And Dom, you may be a stranger to the Bears for significant bits of the season, of course, but I guess it's all about just piling up hopefully some runs and some points and some wins early season in the Champo. Yeah,
like I said earlier, not looking too far ahead, try and win the first game on Thursday and go from there, really. I think from what I've seen so far coming back in and seeing the training and seeing the boys, how they're going, it looks really exciting. There's sort of, like a new lease of life as well with, new coach. It's always exciting. I think, like Rhodes said, when there's a new coach, there's always, people are trying to impress. There's a different intensity to training, and that can only bode well for the team going into the season. So, I'm really excited to get back out there, and I think the group's in a good place, and everyone's sort of going into the game on Thursday with good form under their belt. So, hopefully we get out the traps well.
Tina Burney asks, do you two miss living together? Any funny stories?
I've heard Sibs is better on the stove than he was 3 years ago. So that's probably the way I miss about him. But I think you always. I think it's that banter really. I don't know what Sibs is like, but I've got to live with my missus now, so it's probably different rules to what me and Sibs had when we were living together. So I think that it's always good. I think we were very fortunate that we both had a very good year in 2018 as well. and went Stoney as well. Obviously, he wasn't great at FIFA, so that gave me and Dom a little bit of a upper hand on him, in games to video games. But if Dom's cooking's improved, then I think I like to say I miss living with him.
Yeah, I didn't contribute much on the cooking front when back in 2018. So yeah, I felt a bit guilty at times, but and I was probably back then when I was a little bit plumper, as you could say, I was nicking a few of the boys' treats and biscuits and stuff like that. So I bet they're probably glad that they're probably getting a few more crisps left in the packet.
Getting back to on-field matters, Carl Jordan asks, when you two are batting together, what do you discuss between overs? Is it cricket matters like bowlers or field placings, or do you just chill out and talk about other things?
I think it's a nice balance of both. I think that's always a good thing to have, and the key for having good partnerships is a balance of both. I think obviously at the start when we're facing a new ball, you talk trying to give each other as much information about the bowler, or whether there's someone fielding in a certain area and you can potentially drop and run, or get off strike. I mean, as being right and left-handed, it's always good if we can not get stuck at the same end to a certain bowler, and we can keep rotating the strike. So it might not be necessarily what the bowler's doing, it might be about the field or who's fielding where, or if we know they're a good fielder or maybe not so good fielder. So there's a lot of cricket chat maybe at the start, and then as we get into our work and like we have done, we've had some big partnerships, it's it tends to then become a little bit more relaxed, and you can obviously if you bat long periods of time, you don't want to be on the whole switched on the whole time. Obviously when you're facing, you are, but when you come together in the middle, sometimes it's nice to have a bit of relaxed chat, so that when you then if you bat for a day together, it's a long time if you're discussing cricket, so it's nice to have a balance.
I actually beat Dom at golf last week. So once we did get past the new ball at Leeds Bradford, it was we put a bit of a delivery order on it. So I was just telling him what my Nando's order was going to be every over, which went down well, because obviously me and Dom both like talking about cricket and food at the same time. So that went down pretty well. Whether that was a catalyst to us getting a partnership, I'm not too sure. But if it's going to work, we'll probably have to keep doing that, I think.
Well, the record of you two up top for Warwickshire is remarkable, isn't it? I mean, did you two guys know each other very well before you? Because you joined at a similar time at the Bears, didn't you? But you didn't have Click as an opening pair, didn't you, as well as blokes?
Yeah, I think we knew each other before. I think, like Dom said, we played a lot of age group cricket against each other. Dom was obviously playing a year up, but we'd always see each other at county finals and stuff like that, and big tournaments like Bunbury and stuff like that. So we knew each other growing up. Not real well, but you sort of come across the same guys, don't you, in county finals and age group cricket, especially at the sort of bigger counties that we played for at the time. And then obviously played a little bit of 19s cricket together as well. So I think that probably helped us. And obviously went to Australia as well just before we came back for our first season with the Bears. So I spent a bit of time out in Australia training together. I guess we've not done a great deal of learning about each other's games. So we actually did a bit of training with Rob Jones from Lancs, in our last season in Oz. So I think that got us pretty close. And then, like you say, living together as well, probably helps the relationship and helps your batting as well. So I think there's only been one time, I've not spoken to Sibs, and that was when I ran myself out at Somerset a couple of years ago. So other than that, it's been a pretty cosy relationship, to be honest.
Rob McPake asks of you, Will, how has your captaincy changed since you first started? You haven't been doing it too long, of course, but have you changed in any way?
I wouldn't say I've changed a great deal. I like to think I'm pretty relaxed on the field. I'd like to give guys not so much the freedom, but the sort of ownership of their own games. At the end of the day, everyone is a grown adult. They probably know the game. They know the games pretty well, and I'm just there as a sounding board, really. We obviously come up with plans together, but the guys, obviously, especially the bowlers, we speak a little bit as a batting unit, but it's more the bowlers who you speak to, and you know, those guys you want to take ownership of their game. So if they feel that they're able to execute a plan, then it's almost about backing them to that. And then if it goes wrong, then I sort of intervene and we come up with something else. But like I say, we're all professional cricketers. It's not like you're taking 10 guys from local cricket and bringing them into first class cricket. These guys are very experienced. Tim Bresnan's won a T20 World Cup and however many trophies he wants to tell you he's won. So for me to tell him about bowling is probably pretty irrelevant, really. So he knows his game inside out. Ollie Stone has been fantastic for the Bears for a couple of years, so he doesn't need particularly too much managing. So actually, you just let them sort of get on with it. And for me, it's almost about picking up the pieces and helping the guys in sort of the different viewpoints that I'll see at mid-off.
Question from Carl, possibly more for you, this one, Dom. Carl Jordan says the sweep shot was played very successfully in India, especially by Joe Root. Will you be using that shot more often, or is it more commonly used in the pitches in India and more difficult to play in this country?
I'd say on English wickets, especially maybe day one and day two, probably a shot that brings the bowler more into the game. I think, from experience of playing wickets over here, the pitch doesn't spin a great deal day one and day two. So playing a sweep shot is probably quite a high risk in comparison to when, it's spinning square like it was in India. But one of my things from the winter is that you need to try and develop those shots and develop all sorts of little avenues that you can make playing spin on spinning wickets easier. So for example, after I got to 100 against Leeds, I was facing spin. I sort of thought I was going to try and sweep every ball and try and just practice it. It was a good opportunity to practice. You don't often get that opportunity just to practice a specific shot in a game. So it's not something come Thursday that I'll be thinking about necessarily. I won't be saying if their leg spinner comes on, I'm going to sweep him because of what Root did in the winter. It'll be I'll be looking at the scoreboard, trying to do what's best for Warwickshire in that situation. And I'm sure on day one or day two, maybe different on day three and day four, but on day one and day two, it will be about playing straight and playing through the V and going from there.
Brian McMullen's on touch on the Zoom chat to say, the group chat to say, how's the football banter, chaps? For you, Will, I would think it's fairly perky at the moment with the Tigers top of the table.
It's going well. I think that is one thing I missed out from what Robbo brings. He brings a lot of football knowledge, and with him being a fellow Hull fan, it just gives me a little bit of armoury, especially when Leeds lose, and we can sort of go to Tim Bresnan a little bit. But yeah, look, Hull are going to get promoted, so that's absolutely fine, and we're looking forward to the Blues getting relegated. So I've got an away day next year, really, which would be quite nice. Obviously, Sibs is a token United fan. He's looking forward to them falling out the top four in the last few games of the year. So it goes pretty well. We've got a wide variety of fans in the change room. Ryan Sidebottom is the strangest Norwich fan I've ever seen. I didn't even think he heard of Norwich before he came to England, so I don't know how that one's fallen at his feet. But it's going pretty well in the change room, actually.
Dom, Manchester United, not quite sure why. Would you care to explain?
I think most fans of Manchester United are based in Surrey and London, so I think I fit in there. But it's I've copped a lot of stick from since I've come to Warwickshire from some of the Northern boys. Ian Bell was relentless, to be honest, about giving me stick about being a Man United fan. But yeah, look, that's the team I've gone with from a youngster, and I'm going to stick with them. So we're second. Big Europa League clash on Thursday against Granada. Hopefully we get the win there. Hopefully me and Rhodesy hundreds on Thursday, and then I can watch Man United win on Thursday. That'll be the perfect day, I think.
Indeed. We're getting close to the end now. Just a couple more questions. One from Frank Craven for Will. Thank you for your question, Frank. He says, well done on the good start, Will, you've made as captain. You are, of course, one of Warwickshire's youngest captains, and hopefully can emulate the youngest ever, Frank Foster, who led us to the championship title in 1911, that title, Frank recalls, was clinched on the last day at Northampton, when the night before, to keep the players relaxed, Foster kept them up all night drinking, smoking and playing cards. Is that a strategy you would consider using on the eve of a big day?
Oh, well, I think there's probably a few lads in the dressing room who would quite enjoy that, actually. But I think the game's probably changed a little bit from then. But look, we'll see how we're going in the season. I like to say hopefully we've won it by the last day of the season. Hopefully we've won the league, so we can probably allow the players to do that a little bit. But yeah, I think the game's probably changed a bit. But obviously, I think we're all grown adults. We know what we can do before a game, and you know, we know what we need to do to get ready. So I'm not saying I'll be having 10 pints on Wednesday night. I think, you know, probably 10 pints of water so I can stay out on the park more like. But that's just the age I am at the minute.
But Frank does touch on the fact that you obviously are one of Warwickshire's younger captains down the years. You've had some really experienced players around you, haven't you, with Amby and Belly, and you still have, of course. But it's quite a big job for a relatively young guy. But you seem to have really hit the ground running with it.
Yeah, it's been actually pretty easy. A pretty easy sort of transition last year. Like say Tim Ambrose, Ian Bell, and Jeets. You know, three absolute legends of the game, and you can sort of, or I could rely on those three to get me out of any sticky situation last year and come up with some very good advice. You know, now we've obviously got Brezzy as well for the next few years, and Briggs is signed as well. So you know, it's not like we're lacking in any experience. Dom, like you say, he's played 18 Test matches. Stone, he's played international cricket. So you know, having those sounding boards and guys who have played at a good level. Or a higher level and done very, very well are always good to turn to for advice, even if it's just a quick chat between overs. So yeah, hopefully I should be okay with the boys who are in the squad at the minute.
That's great stuff, fellas. That's all the questions from members. Thank you ever so much to all the members that sent in questions. Just one final word from you both. Dom, you've hit the ground running with runs in the freezing cold up there at the weekend at Leeds. So hopefully more to come this week.
100%, yeah, 100%. Looking forward to getting out there, and yeah, really excited to get back out at Edgbaston and playing for Warwickshire again. I can't wait. And
we'll obviously behind closed doors to start with, but hopefully not too far down the track, we'll get the members and the spectators back in the ground, and how lovely it will be if that can happen and cricket can resume to normal.
Yeah, 100%. Bit of a stinker really when we heard the news. It'd be a few weeks, but you know, that's the way of the world, isn't it? But hopefully by the time, you know, members are allowed back, and everyone can come and watch, you know, we're flying high at the top of the group and playing some good cricket. You know, so it's just an easy transition for when the guys come and shout the Bears, or encourage the Bears down, you know, on sunny afternoons at Edgbaston.
Great stuff, fellas. Thank you very much for your time, both of you. Thank you to all the members as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And hopefully we'll do another one of these very soon. And hopefully we'll all be meeting at Edgbaston very soon to watch some cricket. So on behalf of the Bears all, please stay safe and take care.